This next, this next peptide here is a very close to home peptide. It's a peptide that I am in need of and have been in need of due to poor utilization of anabolic steroids in my earlier youth. Anabolic steroids, for those of you who don't know, cause downregulation of the thymus gland, cause atrophy to the thymus gland. And this creates a lot of unwanted outcomes, which a lot of bodybuilders face, such as heart disease, such as degeneration of spinal columns. And a lot of greats that were lifting crazy weights are now sitting in wheelchairs because of poor thymic activity or thymus activity. So the peptide I'm talking about here today is called Thymosin Alpha1. It's a thymic-based peptide. So this particular thymic-based peptide is only produced in the thymus gland, right? Unlike thymosin beta-4. But it's very unique in that it's a sensolytic agent, so that it can actually turn on sensory cells and create destruction of sensory cells when it's needed. Right, so it helps to regulate the quantity of activity that sensory cells have throughout our entire physiology. It also is a sensor modulator. So the sensory cells that are left intact are modulated to a better effect to enable stem cells the opportunity to propagate and proliferate in the right state. It's very, very important in that it helps those actin filaments I was talking about before in improving fibroblast activity for their cellular matrix. Extremely important to do so. Very interestingly, it's one of probably the best peptides to utilize during COVID infection because it's an ACE2 activator. Okay, ACE2 basically balances out MCH, major histocompatibility 1, with major histocompatibility 2. So the difference between these two is the innate and adaptive immune systems. Okay, so when we balance out the innate and adaptive immune system with one another, the activity provides optimal rates and regulation of inflammation. When one is more active than the other, our inflammatory controls become dysregulated and we start to get ourselves into states of inflammatory diseases, okay, or fibrosis, accumulation of fibrotic tissue such as in the lungs. It's very, very important to reduce fibrotic buildup of tissue in the lungs, extremely so that when you have got poor thymus gland function, one of the first places that will increase fibrotic accumulation is that of the lungs. So anybody that has asthma or knows anybody with COPD, this is a very important peptide to incorporate, and it's used to help with the health of the lungs and the heart as well. It improves interferon response. Interferons are little messengers basically that help to facilitate immune reactions in the body. And how it does this is by improving TIM transcription factor. And this modulates CD8 and CD4. Now, CD8 is linked to MCH1, CD4 is linked to MCH2, modulates those two, but very importantly, it propagates T regulatory cells, okay, which help to regulate our lymphocytes, okay, the lymphocyte activity, T lymphocyte activity, to not get overwhelmed, not to become overactive, not to create an autoimmune compromise. It affects thymocytes, stimulating, differentiating, and converting them into T cells. Okay, so it creates more T cells, balances out Th1, Th2, histamine reactivity, so reduces excessive histamine reactions. So those of you who have chronic sinusitis or know of those who have chronic sinusitis or upper respiratory tract continual reinfections, this is a very important peptide to utilize for these conditions. It also stimulates IF1 gamma, interferon neutron gamma, which is very important for pathogen recognition, antigen processing and presentation, inhibition of cell proliferation, and leukocyte trafficking. Okay, so interferon IFN gamma, IFN funny gamma sign, is very, very important to maintain the integrity and awareness that the immune system has to pathogens. In a nutshell, right? It modulates interleukin-2, which is anti-inflammatory by nature. And what this does, it helps to increase both B and T lymphocyte production. Okay, so interleukin-2 and interleukin-10 are both anti-inflammatory in nature as opposed to interleukin-1 and interleukin-6. So they modulate one another in the right accord to not allow for excessive inflammation to take place. Very important for those who have had excessive steroid exposure, whether it be corticosteroids or anabolic steroids, or those of you who have had exposure to toxins such as heavy metals or cigarette smoke, if you've been a smoker in the past, and you have got compromised to the thymus gland, which is a definite if you've had any of these exposures, utilizing thymosin alpha-1 induces thymopoiesis, okay, which basically is the proliferation of the cells, thymocytes, to increase, to basically regenerate the thymus gland. This is vitally important. This is so paramount, and gold, it's worth more than gold. It's more worth than more, all my weights in gold, because this can help to renew your thymus and reverse the aging process and put you back into the driving seat of performance, mental and physical. For me, Justin McGuire, I'm really excited about this peptide. It's a really awesome peptide, especially for those who have had performance history of utilizing PEDs and the outcome thereof being downregulation of certain thymic or T lymphocyte activity. Get yourself some thymosin alpha-1, but utilize it in the right context. And there's multitude of dosing parameters for its use in the right context. So if you do need this peptide, reach out to us. Let's do the right testing to figure out where you're at and what dose protocols would best suit your needs, rather than overdosing and creating downregulation of certain receptors or upregulation of other unwanted gene activities. For me, Justin McGuire, stay well, stay healthy, and stay mobile. Stay mobile. Keep those fibroblasts going. Take care.